Yep.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thanks to everybody for being here. This can be a bit of a tough topic, to say the least, for many people. I was part of this, and I know that the first time I watched part of the film, it was a little triggering for me, having gone through it with my son. So if you find yourself being triggered and not feeling totally into this, please take a break and take care of yourself first. This will all be available to you later, and you can watch the film at your own convenience in different sections. So Lisa and I are here from Parents to Parents to talk to you about a film that has been made already, as well as some others, which is After Your Child's Suicide Attempt. And we'll be looking at portions of that film,
Oh,
not the entire thing. Please turn off your volume. Maybe Jeremy can do that. Thank you so much. So we will start going through this. Lisa Sabey started this organization when her daughter had anorexia and there was no information out there. And she's with a filmmaker son and said, let's just start making films. So they started doing that. And I've recently come on as the president of the board of directors. So this first film was made with the help of Zero Suicide at the EDC. But first off, Parents to Parents our goal is to change mental health care in America from a system where families feel sidelined and overwhelmed to one where they are supported, empowered, and recognized as essential to healing and long-term recovery. Lisa, can you go through this slide?
yeah. So just like anybody here who's a parent who goes through a journey with a child, we just felt like, okay, what can we do? And we began with a single video from our own experience with some experts. And that ended up being seen by hundreds of thousands of people. And then we started to go broader. We've done, public facing films like American Tragedy 25, which is a suicide prevention one, but it deals with the Columbine shooter's mom's story, Sue Klebold. And now we are partnering with world leaders and organizations and experts, believing that what needs to happen is the family needs to connect deeply and honorably with the professionals to have a truly powerful opportunity for the individual to recover and have a home that understands how to support recovery. And that's us.
So throughout this presentation, we're going to use parts of our film, Parents to Parents After Your Child's Suicide Attempt. And we have other films in development. Right now, we're working on Providers, Parents, and Patients, Partnering for Better Outcomes. And that one is geared towards providers to help them understand that working with the families is actually best for their patients' outcomes, as well as obviously including the parents, decreases a lot of their stress and can help educate them so that their children get better treatment, so that the parents understand what the children need, or young adults. A film that we're already starting to develop will be a working title called Understanding and Treating Substance Use Disorders for Parents. That will be geared for parents for helping their youth. As well as probably a section for providers. We have various feature films in development right now.
The treadmill, buddy?
Lisa is working on. Again, can you please turn off your volume? Everybody watching, can you please put your volume on mute? Thank you. And then we will have other mental illnesses and topics in collaboration with people from our board. We're getting ideas all the time. So as soon as we have funding for something, we can try to move forward after we discuss it and determine that it's a need. There are so many needs, we could be making films forever. And the question is, why film? Films are easy to share. People can look at them at their own time and they can share them and talk to other people about them while they're looking at them in the privacy of their own homes or in a training session at a school, etc. It doesn't cost anything for families to look at these films, which of course is especially important when you're talking about all of the people across the board who have needs within their families. The resources that will be attached to every film are continually being updated, so nothing should be outdated when these films are online. It is our great desire that the people collaborating with us, as well as ourselves, will update the resources. Again, parents can watch these anytime, anywhere. If there's a mental health provider or a general practitioner who isn't really well versed in a certain topic, then we can use films. They can go to this film for help. I run a parent support group for parents of suicidal children. And for example, I use the After Your Child's Suicide Attempt as the first thing that I will send out to a parent who's been through this with their child. And it is very, very helpful. It provides a form of emotional support because people watching the film realize these are real parents, these are real people, and they have been through this too. So film can fit a whole bunch of needs very inexpensively and very easily, freeing time from providers going through everything that might be on a film. This one film contains a lot of information. Within the resources, for example, that are listed on the After Your Suicide Attempt film, there are safety plans, adolescent safety and coping plans. There's a guide from SAMHSA. There's loving someone with suicidal thoughts. Lots and lots of resources that a provider may not have right at the tip of their fingers. A social worker may not know about. So the best resources that are available for a certain topic are being added, including, of course, NAMI, of which I'm a member and have been for many years. NAMI and American Federation of Suicide Prevention support group information is being provided as well. So we're trying to make these a complete resource that parents can use. Lisa, if you would like to introduce the film and how we're going to go through the slideshow.
We're just going to, so we select about half of the film, and just to give you a feel for it and hope that you'll enjoy it. I think one of the most important things for parents is to feel like they are not alone.
We are parents who have had a child attempt suicide.
We want you to know that you're not alone.
There's help for your child, and there's also help for you.
There's hope. There's a future. It doesn't stop when there's a suicide attempt.
I know the devastation that you must be feeling because I've been there.
My son was a teenager. My family ended up right where you are.
I think it could happen to anybody, just like anybody could get leukemia, and we don't know why. It's the same thing.
Anybody can have thoughts of suicide. It doesn't discriminate on age, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity.
Social economics, your culture, your ethnicity.
Suicide affects people so frequently.
In 2015, my son took his life. I am in the minority. That's the good news.
90% of individuals who have attempted suicide do not go on to die by suicide. Only about 20 to 25% will reattempt. We can build a bridge from crisis to hope. We'll go on to live happy and healthy lives with support.
Recovery is not only possible, it's probable.
And here's another section dealing with your emotions. I'm hoping that everybody can see these films and is hearing the voice as well. I believe so.
You may have a flood of emotions or feel totally numb.
I felt completely void of any type of joy or happiness. I felt guilt, empty, devastated. I felt like a failure as a mother. It was the worst feeling in the world.
What I remember, I was trying very hard to keep myself calm so that I could make sure that I was dealing appropriately with our child. a lot of the emotions came later after we dealt with the initial sort of shock of the attempt.
I felt like throwing up, panicked, adrenaline, the scariest thing I've ever been through in my life.
It's not something that I ever dreamed that I'd have to deal with.
Such a surprise.
We've learned quickly that you can feel different things at different times. Some of them are complete opposites of each other. It doesn't really make sense sometimes. So sometimes you feel like you've got this, and sometimes you feel hope. And then other times you feel like it's too hard and I can't keep doing it.
Part of us sometimes went into business mode where we just followed steps to get things done and tried to block out feelings. And sometimes it was bubbled up, cried.
We each had our turns that we took where we would be on, and then times when we just couldn't do it and the other person had to step up. We had to really battle this together.
You might swear a lot, you might shout at people, you might treat doctors far differently than you've ever talked to them before. Know that you are your child's best advocate. Give yourself some grace. You know you're doing this for the sake of your child. So as you can see, the film is divided into sections, and one of the resources on the Zero Suicide page is a listing of the different sections so that you can choose which sections to use in what situation in your clinic, etc.
What is so tricky when someone has suicidal thoughts or attempts suicide is it seems like it's their choice. It seems like they've made a logical choice, and they may tell you they've made a logical choice, but in reality, there's a lot going on that is out of that person's control.
The teen brain is not fully developed. It doesn't yet have that capacity for abstract thought that the adult brain has. So and that's, I think, in part why we tend to see suicides that are more immediate in nature and reactive.
We know, especially among younger kids, that their emotional centers develop at a different rate than some of their cognitive centers. So they could feel intense emotions, may have dealt with something very difficult, could have been fight with a peer, could have been some online bullying, could have been all this, and they then have to make a choice or a reaction of how to deal with it. The brain is not matched up well emotionally with where it is cognitively, and you can have some impulsive decisions that result from it.
When somebody has cancer or when somebody has heart disease, we don't expect love to be enough.
I often thought, why isn't my love enough? Why wasn't my love enough to keep him here? But it's not about love. It's really about understanding what overtakes the mind in a suicidal episode.
Suicidal urges and actions are a force. I sometimes compare it to a tornado. When a tornado comes and somebody gets carried away by the winds, we don't say, but I loved them so much, or they loved me so much. Those suicidal forces are like a tornado. They're a storm inside the head.
Talk about having a heart attack. And I think suicidal thinking is a brain attack. It comes on with this intensity, usually. And in that moment, they can't think of family. There's all this tunnel vision. They think they're worthless. The world would be better off without them. At no point in that episode of suicidality are they 100% committed to the idea of dying by suicide. There is always ambivalence. There is always hope. The brain is trying very hard to survive. Another part of the brain is fighting it. So it's like this awful tennis match. Imagine being in that state of mind, even just for a few seconds.
Most people, as much as they want to die, still also have a desire to live somewhere in there. They may not be connected to it, but it's there because that's how we're biologically programmed, is to survive.
And when they are in that suicidal episode and they're frightened, those episodes scare them too. And they don't quite understand what kind of overtook them. They're struggling with, I love my family, but why couldn't I stop myself?
So something that comes up very often is the concept of HIPAA, and how does that stop parents from interacting with hospitals, et cetera, especially when their children are over the age of 18 and in some states over the age of 15 or 16. So this section of the film attempts to describe that. Suicide attempts can happen in many different ways. The outcome can be very different. Your child may need medical attention.
It's very scary. You don't know what's going to happen to your child. And as medical professionals, they may not be thinking of comforting you. Their first thought is the health of your child. Ask for a social worker, somebody who can help guide you through this process.
So there's often confusion about what you as a parent have a right to know and what your child's provider can and can't tell you.
So HIPAA is clear that the parents are the holders of privilege and they have a right to make decisions and a right to the information. The day that the child hits the age of consent for that jurisdiction, they now are the holders of privilege. And they have to give consent for other parties, including their parents or other clinicians or other family members, to have information about their therapeutic work.
There are 3 ways patients can consent to share health information with their caregivers: signed consent, verbal consent, or implied consent.
But something little known about HIPAA is that if you ask the doctor, please ask my child if it's okay to talk with me, a verbal consent is valid. After my daughter got home and she was feeling better, I asked her, will you please sign a HIPAA release form so if this happens again, we know how to help you? And I posed it to her as, this will help us to help you more. And she did.
There are also exceptions when consent is not needed. For example, in an emergency situation, incapacitation, and when there is a threat of harm.
Also lower.
Doctors are never required to talk with families, but families can always give information to doctors. You can tell your child's provider everything you want to tell them.
And of course, the safety plan, which is more frequently shared with parents now than it used to be, I believe, but it's embedded right into the film with resources attached to the film so that parents watching could come up with their own safety plan or work with a provider.
If a child is not admitted to the hospital, that can be for such a wide range of reasons.
That's a green light to say, yep, they're okay to be worked with on an outpatient basis, which I think is always preferable if possible.
Any suicide attempt is significant and should be taken seriously. So if the hospital is recommending discharge, that doesn't mean, oh, everyone is fine, go back to what we were doing before. I don't even think we need to call that number and make that appointment. Well, although they didn't need to be in the hospital, we need to do something. We need to do something differently.
The most important thing we need to do when we have a teen with intense suicidal thoughts or in a suicidal crisis is create a safety plan. That is evidence-based practice that needs to be done for all teens in an acute phase of suicidality.
We did have a safety plan. We used it many times. The safety plan kind of goes through who do you feel safe with, who can you reach out to, and your child lists these people or things that make them feel better. For my daughter, it was a cousin or her brother, and she would reach out to them and they wouldn't ask questions. They knew the safety plan too. They knew they were part of it. For her, it was like a lot of photography or being outdoors or art. So those people knew that if she reached out, we would start to do that, something to make them feel good, not to talk about the day-to-day until she was safe in talking about that.
There's skill building built into safety planning. I mean, the first is recognizing what activates a suicidal crisis and then helping the child to problem solve about what can they do to cope? What can they do to distract themselves? And then if that doesn't work, what are places or people they can go to for distraction? And if that doesn't work, who are people, family, friends that they can go to for help? Because sometimes who they go to for distraction is different than who they go to for help. If that doesn't work, who are professionals that they can go to? And really being specific, like if they say, well, I could listen to music, what music? Because when someone's in a state of suicidal danger, often the emotional part of their brain overwhelms the logical part of their brain. They can forget what they would normally do. By writing down very specifically what they can do, it's a memory cue.
A lot of times kids aren't just in one home. Maybe there's a grandparent, maybe there's a neighbor that they stay with. So everyone who's going to be
We're not hearing the sound now.
network.
Are there things that they should say or things that they shouldn't say? Are there key people to get into the child's life or key people to keep at bay? And then who do they contact if they're concerned about their child?
It's really important that your child have a lot of input into this plan, because otherwise they're not going to adhere to it.
It can't be like tons of bullet points on a page or like 8 pages long. You're going to throw that away and no one's going to pay attention to it. It should be laminated, goes on the refrigerator.
Other crucial elements of a safety plan, identifying what are the ways that the person is thinking about killing themselves, and then what steps can be taken to make it less easy for them to gain access. We know from decades and decades of research that when people settle on the way that they're going to kill themselves, they usually don't change around to other methods. They stick with whatever method they've decided on. I can't guarantee you that if you limit your child's access to 1, 2, 3 methods that is what they've thought about and what they've said they would use, or that they've attempted in the past, that they won't try something different. But that's relatively unusual. So ask them, and know that you may need to ask more than once, and have them give you a list of what are the top 3 ways they've thought of to kill themselves, and focus the safety plan on how do I limit their access to those ways. And that's something that the provider should, solve around.
So I think one of the biggest things that we had to do to prepare for a child to return home was to prepare the house to make it safer. My task was to take a closet that we had. We replaced the doorknob with one that would lock, and then we were able to sort of accumulate all the things from our house which could be potentially dangerous. Things like prescription, non-prescription drugs, alcohol, any other toxic chemicals, strangulation risk, things like ties and cords and cables, and that was an inconvenience. We're not able to access the things we were normally used to accessing. But at the same time, it did provide sort of a modicum of confidence that our child was not going to be able to easily attempt suicide, that there would be some effort involved that would hopefully then prevent them from doing so.
We locked up the knives, and it broke my heart on several levels. I mean, the fact that she asked us to do that, the fact that she might take a knife to take her life was unbelievable. I'm a cook. I love to cook. My knives are out all the time. I use them every day. So it's just so weird to do that. But we did it, of course, for a long time.
The most lethal means we know are firearms. So this is not to say you can't own a firearm, but they need to be stored safely.
As a parent, I need to be a cheerleader. When I see you using skills, I need to be ready to say, that was an awesome job of just taking a deep breath when you needed that. That was really wonderful that instead of thinking about harming yourself or taking action on that, that you paused, that you made sure you used your muscle relaxation, that you went to your script that helped you feel more empowered to go through a difficult situation. I think it's a lot about reinforcing and then helping promote that sense of that you may not feel like you have control of everything, but you do have control of your immediate next step. So a few seconds at a time, a few minutes at a time.
So I think you can see from that short section that there's more than just paper involved in a safety plan, and that film can get it across. There were so many good points made by the parents and the professionals there that it's just showing the power of film to explain something to parents as well. Then, of course, another section on bringing your child home, which can be incredibly scary for parents, as we know. So, again, we're helping the parents understand certain things that a provider may forget to talk about with them, but it can be put into the film.
It can be incredibly scary to bring your child home. There are so many unknowns.
Remember when they were born in the hospital and you put them in the car, the absolute abject fear that I'm unqualified. Now they're handing this child over to me. Their life is at stake. I got to figure all this out. It's a similar feeling of like, I'm not qualified to do this. Go back and understand, acknowledge that fear, sit with that fear.
It's important to recognize it's a scary moment, but it's not an insurmountable moment. And don't let your feeling overwhelmed make your decisions for you.
There's no one single path a parent can expect following a child's suicide attempt. For some kids, this is a one-time thing and things resolve quickly. For other kids, this is a longer path where they struggle with either depression or anxiety or some other mental health concern that is long lasting. Parents need to be ready for whatever that ride is going to entail. The way to be able to most effectively do this journey with your child is literally doing it with them, being open and empathic and hearing what your child is feeling and really working on building the relationship between you and them is a huge protective factor against future suicidal thoughts and behaviors. I think the most important resources that parents and teens can have at their fingertips are literally the ones that can be on your phone. Put in Lifeline, put it right into your contacts, put Trevor in there, put crisis text line into yours and into your teenagers. There's a safety plan app where you can upload your child's safety plan right into it. And so I would do that because kids have their phone on them at all times. So just any resources you want, make sure that it can be put easily into their phones.
So when our children are living with any type of mental health, personally, having been a parent doing this and talking with many other parents, I really think that communication is an incredibly huge part of recovery, whether it's suicidal ideation or any other serious mental health conditions. So including a section on communication was very important.
The most important thing that a parent can do after their kid has attempted suicide is really encouraging and enhancing the communication with their teen. This is a really hard thing to do sometimes. A lot of the time, the teen does not want to talk about it. We developed this safety scale, which is a scale from 1 to 6, 1 being feeling totally safe and 6 being completely unsafe, need to go to the hospital. At each number, 1 through 6, they identify how they feel, what they need, and how they act. It allows parents to be able to do quick check-ins with their kids saying, where are you at on your safety scale? So that they know. And the kid can just spit back, I'm at a 3. So the parents kind of are like, okay, my kid's safe. Don't need to have this whole long involved conversation about it because the teens don't want to have that.
You do not want to get into yelling and screaming because then you're getting into emotional chaos. So think like the snow globe. There are all these things swirling about and you have to wait till they settle because you're not going to say anything or do anything that is really the right response until you are in a better place of calm. Sometimes it requires stepping away, or sometimes it requires reflecting back. I hear you saying that you feel like I wouldn't listen or wouldn't understand. And you know what? That's a valid criticism. I have had moments where I haven't listened to you. I've gone into lecture mode and you don't feel heard. So, yeah. That's valid. And I know how that feels. But once they see you kind of soften and understand that you have made those errors and that you're admitting to them, they're going to feel that. And I think you'll feel that shift and that turn, and it might not turn in that conversation.
You don't have to agree, but you can still empathize with how painful it is.
We have to meet them where they are right now. If that's in darkness and despair, that's where we need to go. But I want everyone to understand that's where relationships are deepened as well. That's where we make real connection.
We used art as a therapy way. So maybe we didn't speak or we didn't say a lot. We would draw, we would color together. It was just about me being present with her in that moment. And it didn't have to have words attached to it.
I've had my best conversations with both of my sons while we were taking a walk or out shooting baskets. People talk while they do things.
I don't have as close a relationship with my child as my wife does. My wife tends to be the one who talks with them more about kind of personal issues. They also talk more with their therapist. I don't have a poor relationship, but it's a different kind of relationship. I try to keep in contact with my child in terms of what they're doing at school, giving them a kiss goodnight before they go to bed.
I took a class that helped a lot with communication skills. Just things like using I statements, basic communication skills helped a lot. And not reacting to what she was saying, but really listening and thinking before I even opened my mouth was so important. And I noticed when I started changing my communication skills, she started changing the way she communicated as well.
For the longest time, it was really difficult to have conversations because I always felt like I was walking on eggshells and I was going to say something wrong. I had to pause and think about what to say all the time. And there are many times that I said something that I immediately was like, I shouldn't have said that.
One of the most important things about apologizing is not following it with a but. I'm sorry, but I was scared. I'm sorry, but I was frustrated. I'm sorry, but I was angry. That's still centering your needs. And sometimes we just need to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. I wish I hadn't.
I don't think that apologies always work in the moment, but even if in that moment they don't forgive what you've said or done, they know that you apologized. And I think that goes a long way in the future.
So I think that one sort of speaks for itself, but it's not just for suicide attempts. Obviously, it can be very helpful to review that section of the film when a parent is lacking in or is very frustrated by their child. And then, of course, back to school. School stress can really impact kids way more than parents understand. Of course, for the parents, when their kids are in school, it's hyper critical that they go back to school and finish and get that A and everything else. But there are some strategies and plans and great insights given in this section.
One of the biggest questions I get from families is, what do I do when the child comes home? Do they go back to school? Do they go back tomorrow? Do they go back next week? I would not discharge your child if they were not ready to return to some semblance of what might be considered a normal day.
As much as possible, you never want the person who has survived a suicide attempt to feel guilty for that. Trust your gut about having conversations with your child about, what do we want to tell the school? Why do we want to tell them what we're going to tell them? How are we going to navigate that? That does two things. That conveys to them that you trust them enough to be involved in the important decisions about going back to school. And it says to them, there's nothing shameful here. We're just trying to make sure that your return to school is as smooth as possible. You tell the school what you think the school needs to know and what you think they can handle knowing. You can always tell them more later, right? But you can never take back something that you later wish you hadn't shared with them.
I would recommend that the school is aware that they were hospitalized, and here is their new safety plan. Here's a copy, very specific with schools.
Many schools aren't aware that such a reentry process for teens following a suicide attempt is needed. That's when parents come in, and you need to really advocate for your child.
I also asked for support at the school with them working with me to identify any changes in behavior.
We did not stop him from swimming or doing his drama club activities because he loved that.
You don't want to isolate your child at home. Toxic social relationships can absolutely be contributing to why an adolescent is thinking about suicide. But positive social relationships can also be hugely protective for them. You want them going to school, participating in their normal activities, spending time with their friends.
So what are ways that they can still kind of engage and become more active? Because their energy level will go up and they'll actually feel better. Can you go and read to Nana today? Can you spend some time with cousins that you really care about and cherish?
You want to think carefully about their social media use, and maybe you want to think about monitoring it more than you did before, because just how toxic and dangerous social media can be for adolescents, particularly adolescents who are in really vulnerable places, like after a suicide attempt. You can't be absolute about any of this. You need to be flexible. Try things out and see how it goes. It's important that you're having regular conversations with your kids about, well, how is it now that you're back at school? Is there anything happening that's not helpful, that's making it hard for you to be there? Is there anything that I can do to make that less difficult for you? Ask them, how are things going with your friends? What's helpful? What's not helpful? And know that you're going to make mistakes. You can't control every minute of your child's day. You don't want to. You've got a life too. The more you're regularly conveying to them that you care, that you're trying to help, that them being safe is what's most important to you, that you are supporting them in recovery and in developing a life worth living, that's the best you can do.
So if anybody has been involved with NAMI at all, you would know that we definitely talk about self-care. And self-care is so important for parents dealing with mental health issues, as well as for the children themselves. So this section at the end is more geared towards the parents, but gives some ideas as well.
Educate yourself as much as you can. Learn about mental health. Learn about their specific condition. Do everything you can to help them, but also don't let go of your own life, of yourself.
My son was very stressed and had a lot of anxiety, and he directed a lot of anger towards us.
My emotions were directly affected by her emotions. I was right there with her the whole time, and it was really detrimental to my health.
We were on constant parenting mode with him. You can't let up for a moment.
I had to come to the point, her life is her life and my life is my life, and I am always here to help her. But I need to live my life, and I need to have a life, and I need to find joy again, because I didn't experience joy for literally years.
You need to remember that you're a human being. You are having an emotional reaction to what your kids are saying. You've got to take care of yourself. You need someone safe to talk to, who you can say, my kid said the most hurtful, hateful thing to me, and I was devastated.
What works for you? You know, maybe therapy may work for you. maybe sitting down in a therapy session with your child.
You can write to other people, or I have a secret blog that I write letters to my child on. Sometimes it's on really bad days. Sometimes it's on a day where I'm really grateful for where we're at right now. Hopefully someday after we're in a better place can share those letters with them. But I think it's important to get those feelings out.
And I would go for rides with my very good friend, and we call it the walkie-talkie. We would walk the horses and talk, and then ride, and sometimes not talk so much.
By you helping yourself is in turn going to help your child, because you're going to be able to be a better parent.
It doesn't have to be professional help. It just needs to be someone who's willing and able to listen. I'm fortunate to belong to a men's group. I can tell you I've spent a lot of time in men's group over the years talking about my concerns about our son.
I strongly encourage all parents to find a parent support group.
That was the biggest piece for me, is finding other people that were kind of a part of my tribe, that were understanding and compassionate and empathetic, and who just got it.
The support group worked really well for us because I was hearing my husband say things that he wasn't saying to me. And for some reason, hearing him say it to a group of people, I thought about it more. And I thought, he's not wrong.
Unfortunately, there are millions of parents like us. Find them. Make connections with them. Get support from each other. It really helps.
And finally, we never want to leave parents thinking there is no hope, because there is hope for whatever situation you're in.
I have heard from many, many parents of adult children now about how when they were a teenager and things were really, really bad, the parents didn't know if they'd ever get through it. And they did. And their kids went on to thrive. I have hope that your kid will get better. I can hold the hope for you.
As long as your child is still alive, there's hope. There's a future.
I never give up hope because my daughter does show sparks of progress. And that's what I focus on.
Take it day to day. Most people do recover. And when they recover, they built resilience, and they built a toolbox, and they're more prepared for adulthood than ever before.
I think it's really important to understand that even kids who have gone through long periods of not wanting to be alive do get better.
My son is doing well today, and I call it living well. What I want to leave with you today is, I don't know you, I don't know where you're from. What I do know that all of us have deep inside of us a caring spirit that has hope. There's a light somewhere in you, and don't let that light dim. Move with that light and help your loved one, and never give up.
I just love Judy at the end and what she says. I think it's so graceful and so true. So you can take a picture of this to access the full film, as well as the resource page for parents. And as you can see at the bottom, it is the Zero Suicide edc.org/parents website page that contains an awful lot of resources. So take a picture of that, and that will lead you directly to the page. So it's very handy, that parents could even have access to something like this that immediately could send them to a resource. And Lisa and I would love to connect with you. We are making films. We're not stopping. And the next one, as I said, is the substance use disorder film. Of course, if we get funding for it, that will be great, and we can do that sooner. If you have ideas for funding, or if you have an idea for a film, please feel free to get in touch with us. We work with universities. We try to work with the best providers that we know of. So if you have access to a provider that you think would be fantastic also, please let us know that. Our films incorporate many experts as well as those with lived experience, as you can see throughout the films. So I hope that you can see from this presentation how important films can be. I would like to now turn it over to Lisa to say a few words, and then we'll open up the chat and have some questions and answers.
I guess the first thing I just want, first of all, to thank you all, but also to identify two things. One is that with my experience, I kept reading everything I could for my daughter, but my husband did not have time. He was working full time, he had church responsibilities, and was not able to read like I was. But a film could unite people, whether or not they have time to read. This is a 54-minute film. And so it can help, whether or not the mom and dad are married, or if there's a stepdad or a stepmom. It just allows for a unifying front that I think is very important. I also want to let you know that on the resources, there are one-pagers. There are one-pagers for doctors' offices. There are one-pagers for hospitals, that the Zero Suicide has, through focus group, identified what is needed. And this is what the focus group has told them. So you're welcome also to, you can go onto that website and find those one-pagers and have them available at schools or in doctor's office or whatever. Anyway, yeah, let's open up for questions.
And you can let us see your lovely faces. You can turn your videos on if you'd like. And then, of course, you can open up your audio as well. And I guess I would prefer if you raise your hand, or here's somebody in the chat. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Alison, if you could
Yes.
just maybe rewind the slideshow to the contact information page that's up while the Q&A is going on, that might be helpful to people.
I will try to do that. Okay, let's screen share, share that, share. Not sure that I can get it up there. I am not a good. Well, I will tell you, it's Alison Paine 21 at gmail.com. That's ALISON PAINE 21 at gmail.com. And Lisa's is Lisa, I believe, .Sabey at parents2parents.org. Lisa, is that correct?
Yes, and I'm actually just getting the website, how you can get it. I have it, so I'll put it on the chat box.
So one thing that I want to reiterate again with the film, there are more topics in the film. I don't have my complete list with me, but we went about through half of them. And what you can see by using film is that in a 1-hour film, a whole lot of topics can get covered. For some people, it's too much. Every time I watch the film, I see something new, and I was involved with it. So watching it in shorter segments makes it much easier for parents and providers. We have a question. Are there films in Spanish? No, at this point in time, there are not.
Okay, so there actually are, we are getting that. The Google Translate is allowing it, and so we will have that probably within the next 2 months.
Good question. Any other questions from the chat? Okay, so what the University of Michigan did was they were not involved with this film, although they're working with us in future films. They have used this film in their waiting rooms. They are loading parts of it onto handheld iPads for parents as they're waiting in an emergency room, for example. They're selecting portions of it for When the children might be in a session, something that the parents could do is watch portions of the film. So they have provided a listing of all of the sections of the film and how they fit to a certain situation. And that is listed on the Zero Suicide resource page as well. And you can see that you could tailor the contents of any film by chapter to work in your setting. So our future films will also go along in that format, so that while it's a large film, you can certainly use 5 minutes of it, 10 minutes of it, whatever would suit best for you and your clients at that time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there are a couple of questions that probably I answer. Can you talk a little bit about the filmmaking process? Thank you, Jeremy. Yes, we worked with Zero Suicide in identifying both the experts and also organizations like NAMI in Michigan, of people that we would be able to find who had lived experience who'd be willing to be on film. And then we identified the questions we wanted. We did the interviews, and then we started doing different cuts. And after we got through, we had about probably 30 hours that we brought down to about 2 hours. And then we decided what we still needed. And after we finished all of that and got it down to about an hour and 5 minutes, then Julie Grummett from Zero Suicide brought in a focus group of experts around the nation, asking what they liked, didn't like, what was still needed. We did two more interviews, added that, and then we finished it. And then Julie, in response to the dissemination, Julie from Zero Suicide has been working with us, and we're working very much to have a very wide and deep dissemination. She's brought it to conferences. She has worked with hospital systems to have it on the discharge papers. She has the one-pagers for doctors' offices. She's worked with interfaith leadership to identify how they can use it. She's worked with libraries, how they can have community showings. So what we are trying to do is to make it disseminated as widely and deeply as possible. And we'd love to have you all use it.
And for how a film comes about, for example, the next one that we're working on right now, we develop relationships with the University of Michigan, although I live there and I knew some of them anyway, but working with them and letting them tell us who their experts are. And so there will be interviews. We're finishing up with the interviews next week, actually. We've interviewed all around the nation already, experts in New York, in San Diego, in Colorado, as well as Michigan, like I said, coming up. So it's working with the top people in the hospitals or universities, as well as different organizations that might really hone into a certain topic. Certainly the substance use disorder topic will be experts from universities, as well, of course, many organizations throughout the United States. So it's a whole lot of filming to bring it down to an hour, and an hour is even long. But as you can see, an hour can encompass so much, whereas 1 hour of meeting with the social worker, they would probably not have as much information that they could pass on to you. So it really can enhance the opportunity for passing on information, as well as making parents and listeners feel that they are part of a group of people that understands, because they're parents just like them in the film.
There's a question by Laurie that I don't know the answer to, but maybe you do. Have there been talking points developed to go along with the film? Like when the University of Michigan did it, when Zero Suicide? If not, we will get that.
I don't believe so just yet. No. In some ways, it doesn't really need talking points. It speaks on its own. And when the film is shown all together, it flows better, of course. We took sections out, but talking points are a good idea. Basically, recognizing that, the providers have to look through the film and become familiar with it first, as well as really identify which sections they want to focus on and direct their clients to it to watch on their own time as well.
And we love community viewings. I think that not only diminishes stigma, but it increases the sense of, oh, I have some information. When I had all the parents who were in the Colorado area come and view it after it was done, it was fascinating to me because none of them had a child who had attempted suicide, but all of them said that they learned from it and they wish that all parents could see it. So that was an unexpected response from those parents. And I think it does, it's very compassionate. It's understanding of the parents' sometimes anger and a lot of times fear, but it also helps us understand what a suicide episode was or is. And anyway, yeah, we think community showings are great and it's free. There's nothing, we don't get any advantages to have you guys do this, except that the community becomes a stronger community as we disseminate this information and increase our compassion.
And I think also for the substance use disorder film, we'll be talking about some of the new treatment methods that may not be so well known by providers. Heidi, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that as a parent whose child had a suicide attempt, and I've definitely walked in the shoes of the folks who were represented in the video, it was tremendously validating and just really, really fabulous. I just want to say a huge thank you for taking the time to get so many fabulous perspectives documented. And yeah, I really hope that the dissemination lift is extraordinarily thorough, because I wish every provider we had ever engaged with, every school personnel, every sort of point of contact within the system of care had access to some of this non-judgmental, validating, and really just helpful, useful information, because it felt like we were paving a new path when that wasn't necessary. And just, I really, really thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. And feel free to share the film now with your schools, with your providers. Everybody can access it. It is free to view on the Zero Suicide webpage. So I hope you all go forth and spread the news about it. And also pay attention to parents, because we'll be coming up with new films as well. And again, we want your ideas. Anybody else? I'm not seeing the whole screen at the same time. How much time do we have? 4 or 5 minutes?
No, we have 2 minutes, but just wanted to thank everybody who stayed on and all the work that you are doing. And we not only would love to have you use this, but help us know what you're doing and how we can help you. I believe strongly that we should not be silos, but truly hold hands and move forward together.
And thank you so much for Lisa having the vision way back when to start doing this, because it can change lives. It can contact people in their own homes with tons of great information. I really think that film is an awesome resource to have, especially when it's free for parents to use. I wish I'd had this film way back when. You can tell when I was in the film, it was several years after my son's 1 or 2 suicide attempts. But boy, oh boy, it would have been helpful. And I believe it's being helpful now to parents who are able to see it. So spread this around, have webinars in your community. We encourage you to do that. And if you would like one of us to attend, please get in touch with us and we'll try to do that. It's pretty easy using Zoom. So thank you. And thanks to the National Federation of Families for allowing us to present with them. Doing films at conferences is something new. They normally don't do things like this, but we have been invited to several national conferences already. And I think they're starting to see the power in films as well. Again, thank you and have a great rest of your conference. I've got to see what I'm going to watch later on today. So thanks so much to everybody, and thanks to Jeremy for helping out.